Giza, Egypt. In 1977, and then again in 1987, electronics engineer and inventor Joe Parr conducted experiments on the top of the Great Pyramid. Using equipment of his own design, Parr measured the pyramid's electrical, magnetic, and radioactive properties.
Joe Parr, who was my very close friend and research colleague, discovered what I believe is the most incredible discovery about the Great Pyramid and pyramids in general. Joe believed that the pyramids had an energy field around them. All pyramids had it. The problem is the pyramid energy field was usually not strong enough. So he developed in his laboratory a method for generating this pyramid energy, so then he could actually do scientific studies on it.
Over the last few decades, people have been experimenting with pyramids. What has come to the forefront of this is the fact that pyramids are an enigma. They really have powers which are very hard to explain. And so people like Joe Parr have been looking into this. When somebody goes to the top of the Great Pyramid and experiences this weird electromagnetic vibration, this is not just a coincidence, but this has to do with the fact that the Great Pyramid is causing this.
Joe Parr found out that if he put a model pyramid and spun it in a centrifuge through an alternating magnetic current, an energy field, or he calls it an orb or bubble, would form around the model pyramid. Joe found that this bubble or energy orb would block all known types of electromagnetic radiation, even gamma rays. Now, this was interesting. We don't know of any types of energy forces that could do this. This is the most incredible thing about Joe Parr's discovery.
In later laboratory experiments, Parr claimed to have discovered yet another strange physical phenomenon. The model pyramid became weightless in the energy field and began to move in a specific direction.
They calculated the direction of this energy field where the pyramid would shoot out from. And guess what? It aligns exactly where we would see the constellation Orion. So Joe speculated that it went into hyperspace. This is speculation, but it makes a lot of sense. In string theory and physics, it postulates the existence of 6 additional spatial dimensions. So how do we know the way this energy fields were set up? It allows this pyramid to go into another dimension and travel. Joe never proved this, but before he died, he believed that the pyramid acted as a time machine, if you could unlock its key.
I believe that it's a gateway or a portal into multiple dimensions that would enable a transmission of people, objects, or consciousness from other dimensions into our dimension.
Is it possible, like Joe Parr believed, that the Great Pyramid could facilitate travel through interdimensional space? And if so, were there other pyramids with the same capabilities? Might the Earth's pyramids be connected, not simply by shape, but by purpose, perhaps as part of some otherworldly plan?
The ancient people were all building these same pyramids because it was a way for them to tap in to the natural energy of the Earth. And you have to think that whoever is guiding such a precise network of pyramids must have been a very advanced culture, probably extraterrestrials.
In all of this, I have one single question. Where are the blueprints? If all of this was so incredibly important, then wouldn't you think that we would have at least one record of some type of a blueprint? And the reality is, there is not a single piece. Why? Could it be because the blueprints have disappeared?
Giza Plateau, Egypt. The Great Pyramid is arguably the most enigmatic structure on the face of the Earth. It is the only surviving wonder of the ancient world, and has inspired endless speculation as to how it was built and what purpose it served.
Ever since the first studies of the Great Pyramid in Egypt have been made, researchers have been amazed at the mathematical knowledge that is encoded into the Great Pyramid, the measurements that are used in it. Even the placement of the Great Pyramid has aroused great interest among Egyptologists.
The Great Pyramid is aligned to within 3/60ths of a degree of north, a more accurate alignment than any other structure on Earth.
When you look at the Great Pyramid's alignment, it's aligned very, very close to true north. Even more interesting is to think about tracking back in time, because the Earth's axis has been shifting slowly. It's what we call precesses. And so if there's been a shift in that alignment, it could be that it was even more accurately aligned to north in the past when they built it.
The Great Pyramid is not only perfectly aligned to the cardinal points, its placement on the Earth is seemingly intentional as well.
If you pass a great circle from the Great Pyramid through its cardinal and its ordinal directions, what you find is that these circles will pass through more landmass of the Earth than any other location on the Earth. You find that the Great Pyramid is essentially located at the center of the world's landmass.
The Great Pyramid was built at the level of technological sophistication far in excess of anything that we have today. They don't use the inch as we normally have it in the English system. It's the cubit. And what's interesting about this cubit is that it is exactly 1/25 millionth of the polar diameter of the Earth, meaning the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole of the Earth. Chop it up into 25 million pieces, there's your cubit. It's perfect.
Is that if you actually take the length of the Great Pyramid at its mean socket level, which is the corners of the actual building, it translates into 365.24 pyramid cubits, which just happens to be the Earth right down to a quarter day.
The measurements of the length and width of the perimeter of the Great Pyramid correspond to an exact fraction of both the latitude and longitude measurements at the equator. Scaled up, this means the Great Pyramid directly corresponds to the circumference of the equator, as well as the measurement from the equator to the pole, making it a scale model of the Northern Hemisphere.
If you take the location of the Great Pyramid as a coordinate, this number sequence of this coordinate matches exactly the speed of light traveling through space, measured in meters per second. This is amazing stuff. When you consider the vast amount of information about the Earth that's encoded into the Great Pyramid, you can't just dismiss all of this as pure coincidence.
The Giza Plateau, Egypt. Here, in the desert just outside Cairo, stands the Great Pyramid of Khufu. 4,500 years ago, it was the tallest and most impressive man-made structure on Earth. But exactly how and why the pyramid was constructed remains a mystery.
The Great Pyramid is the most wondrous place on Earth. And when you're standing in front of it, you are confronted with the greatest mystery of all time. Who built this place? How could it have been constructed? Why is it still standing? And then when you go inside it, you have the feeling like you are in the hands of an extraordinary intelligence.
We've got a structure that's 480 feet high. It covers 13 acres. There's 2.5 million blocks of stone. The heaviest stones weigh 70 tons. They quarried thousands of tons of granite 500 miles away. It's an amazing structure.
To me, the most intriguing thing is the scale of the project. You know, if you want to build a tomb, fair enough, but why go 146 meters high? Why use 2.5 million blocks of stones with a mass of 6 million tons?
Mainstream archaeologists theorize that the Great Pyramid was built sometime around 2500 BC as the burial tomb of the pharaoh Khufu. But this claim has yet to be proven, and the debate among various researchers over for who or for what purpose the structure was built continues.
We're told that the Great Pyramid was a tomb for the pharaoh, but there's never been a body found inside the Great Pyramid.
We have found pyramids in the 1950s by respected Egyptologists whereby the tomb was sealed, whereby the sarcophagus was intact, and inside there was no body, there was no corpse, there wasn't even a coffin. And so this notion that we really think that grave robbers somehow were responsible for everything can no longer be maintained.
There has to be a reason for them to be there, and they are a tremendous expenditure of resources, and if not for a revered leader, they had to have had some benefit for the civilization that built them.
So it's a whole controversy. Nobody knows why our ancestors constructed pyramids.
But if the pyramids at Giza were not intended to house the remains of dead pharaohs, then why were these towering monuments built? Could there be a connection between the Pyramid of Khufu and other pyramids around the world, one that has been lost to time? Or is it possible that the builders of these engineering marvels had an otherworldly inspiration, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest?
Both the Mayans and the Egyptians have legends that the gods came down and gave them instructions to build pyramids. For instance, with the Egyptians, the famous god Thoth is known as the architect of the universe. And it was he who allegedly designed the entire pyramid complex at Giza.
Imhotep, the person who was responsible for the first pyramid, actually said that he received this information from the god. Not so much that God appeared to him and told him, but that he was able to access this information from a different realm, and from there began the pyramid building process.